From more known additions to obscure details and even leaked information, this video I'll be going over just about every single piece of major info we currently know about Season of the Deep. We are less than 2 weeks away, and with many people throughout the community patiently waiting for what could be a turnaround for Destiny after LIGHTFALL'S launch, I figured I'd put all of the major changes of Season 21 into one video. So without further ado, I hope you enjoy. Number 1. Season of the Deep's first look. This is what most of you are probably already familiar with, but I wanted to go over it anyways. From the reveals that Bungie has given us, we've been able to deduce that the sea monster on Titan, yes, Titan is coming back, from way back in the day is definitely going to be present. Another thing is Sloane. Not only did we hear her calling for help with the quote emergency support that she needed, but in the teaser image we can clearly see that she's been, at least in some form, taken, given the look of her right arm. Of course, from this image we can also see what the seasonal armor is going to look like this time around, and Bungie even released another image as of recent, which shows off, in my opinion, some of the best armor design we've seen in quite some time. To go alongside this, Bungie also teased that we'll be heading underwater in Season of the Deep by saying, quote, "Here's a glimpse of one of the places that you'll be heading." Number 2, you will not need to grind pinnacles anymore come Season 21, at least if you're already the pinnacle cap. That's right, Bungie will not be increasing the power level for I believe the first time ever in a new season's release. So if you're already 1810, you will not have to worry about leveling up your gear whatsoever throughout the course of the new season. Do keep in mind though that your artifact power will reset, so you will have to re-level that. Number 3, Season of the Deep will not feature a vendor upgrade paradigm. Bungie says that, quote, "The same will be true for the following season. This doesn't mean that players will never see a vendor upgrade system again, but instead it means we want to create more varied experimental frameworks and slowly create a wide array of different systems for players to show their investment into seasonal content." While on the topic of Bungie making major changes to how the season will work compared to others, Bungie also said, quote, "In both Season of the Deep and Season 22, the team is pushing the envelope to create more fresh activity experiences, like when we first unveiled the Shattered Realm in Season of the Lost, or debuted Battlegrounds in Season of the Chosen." So from the sounds of it, we're probably getting a seasonal activity, the likes of which we haven't seen yet. Number 4. There will be a quest that's free for all Lightfall owners that will grant players not only 3 new Strand aspects, but also the missing hand cannon that was seen in the Lightfall promotional material. It's pretty good on Bungie for not charging people to buy the season to actually get this bad boy, because I know tons of people would be upset, and rightfully so. It was in the promotional material, but not in the expansion, and it seems that Bungie is making good on that. Also, speaking of weapons while we're here, take a look at the seasonal ritual weapon, the Last Rite Scout Rifle. This is a Tex Mechanica kinetic aggressive frame, and as you can see on screen, these are what all the ornaments are going to look like. Number 5. Circling back to those Strand aspects I talked about, here's what they are and what they will do. The Hunter aspect is Threaded Spectre. Activate your class ability to leave behind a decoy woven from strand matter that draws the attention of nearby combatants. After taking significant damage or when combatants approach, the decoy detonates, dealing damage and releasing threadlings that seek out and attack nearby foes. And I'm not gonna lie, this kinda sounds like monkey bombs from Call of Duty Zombies, and I think I'm on board. The Titan aspect is the Flechette Storm. While sliding, activate your charged melee ability to leap into the air, knocking nearby targets away and dealing damage. While airborne, activate your charged melee again to launch a cluster of damaging unraveling projectiles. Repeatedly activating melee will chain additional throws. And finally, the Warlock aspect is the Wanderer. Tangles you throw attach to enemies and detonate into a suspending burst. Threadling final blows will create a tangle. Again, these are all free to those that own Lightfall, and it definitely sounds like it'll mix up the current Strand builds that we have in the game, which is always welcome. Number 6. Speaking of Strand, one of the most fun parts of the subclass is the Grapple ability, and starting in Season 21, Bungie will be reducing its cooldown base from 105 seconds to 82 seconds. I remember a lot of people being upset about the long cooldown when Lightfall first dropped, and hopefully this can help make that feel much better. Number 7. We'll be getting 2 new mods, one named Powerful Attraction and the other Elemental Charges. Powerful Attraction says, when using your class ability, you collect all orbs of power within a radius determined by the number of copies of the mod you have equipped. Bungie followed up by saying, the request for a quote seeking orbs mod that would have allowed orbs to track to you did not fall on deaf ears. However, adding such functionality to an object that has spawned as frequently, in such numbers, and for all Fireteam members, not just the creator, could create memory, performance, and latency issues. Next up, we have elemental charges, and this says that collecting subclass collectibles associated with your damage type, things like fire sprites, ionic traces, stasis shards, void breaches, has an escalating chance to grant you a stack of an armor charge, and if you're on Strand, this is granted by destroying tangles. Bungie followed up by saying, the frequency of gaining a stack of armor charge is tuned differently for each collectible to account for the differences in frequency and volume of creating these collectibles. Number 8. In Season of the Deep, if you subscribe to the demonjoe channel, you'll be met with PvE exclusive content for Destiny 2, in the form of shorts, live streams, and videos, so you should definitely do it. Okay, but for the real number 8, the perk Shoot to Loot will now not only be able to pick up ammo when shooting at bricks, but also orbs of power, making the perk that much more desirable than it already was. Number 9. In our current season, changing our artifact mods is such a massive hassle as you need to completely reset your artifact if you want another mod that wasn't already selected. In Season of the Deep, however, Bungie will remedy this issue by allowing us to select and deselect mods on an individual basis without needing to reset them all in one go just to get the one mod that we wanted for our build. Number 10. The good boy from Season of the Seraph will make an appearance back from the Destiny content vault in the tower when Season of the Deep launches. Number 11. This of course will come at the cost of season passes increasing in price. Okay, that's not actually the reasoning, but Bungie has stated that the season pass prices will increase from 1,000 silver, aka $10, to 1,200 silver. This wouldn't be too big of a deal if a 1,200 silver bundle existed in the game already, but as it stands, if you buy season passes on an individual basis, you would need to spend a minimum of $15 to buy what should only be a $12 purchase. In my opinion, this is incredibly stupid and anti-consumer if things end up staying this way. But what do you guys think? Number 12. Season of the Deep will finally introduce a system where we can focus exotic engrams into the armors that we want. This will come in 3 tiers so that you can narrow down on just how precise you want your focus to be, with an increase in price depending on how specific you get. Firstly, we have the standard decryption. Think of it as how engrams currently work. You pick up an exotic engram off the floor and it just gives you a random exotic for your class. That is basically what standard decryption is, and it won't cost you anything except for the engram itself. Next, we have the Tier 1 decryption. This allows you to receive a random exotic armor specifically from Destiny Vanilla or an expansion. So for example, if you were hoping to not spend too many resources but wanted to narrow down your chances of getting a Cuirass of the Falling Star, you could focus the Beyond Light exotic armor and have a much higher chance at getting what you want than the traditional decryption, which would have way more sources of exotic armor than just Beyond Light and its seasons. This will cost you the exotic engram you're decrypting, 30,000 glimmer, and 1 Ascendant shard. Lastly, we have Tier 2 decryption, where instead of just focusing the expansion plus its seasons, you can now just focus the exact armor piece that you want. And this is going to cost the engram that you're decrypting 60,000 glimmer, 3 Ascendant shards, and 1 exotic cipher, which the exotic cipher is pretty nice because as an endgame player, I currently have no use for these. Number 13. While on the topic of exotic armors, to go alongside this exotic focusing system, Bungie also did a pass on all RNG exotic stats to ensure that your exotic armors should roll with consistently higher stat totals with more frequent stat spikes. The average total should be around the mid-60s, which is really awesome. Number 14. Again, continuing with the exotic conversation, this time for weapons, Bungie went back and updated all of the older raid content to introduce triumphs that will increase the drop chances of their respective exotic weapon reward. These activities include Last Wish, Deepstone, Vow of the Disciple, Vault of Glass, and King's Fall. This is very similar to like Root of Nightmares or some of the recent dungeons, where if you do some triumphs, you get an increased chance for the exotic, which is really nice. Number 15. Some amazing quality of life changes are coming very soon because Bungie are finally doing something about the consumables Finest Matter Weave and Rainmaker. These items will no longer drop from any source in the game, and in any instance where you would have received a Finest Matter Weave, you will get 1 enhancement core instead, and in the case of Rainmakers, you will get 3000 Glimmer instead. So for any of you guys that also have a lot of these in your inventory, the same is going to apply whenever you dismantle them. You get 1 core per Matter Weave, 3000 Glimmer per Rainmaker. Number 16. Bungie is finally going to allow players to obtain old crafted weapons, but not quite in the way that you think. A new currency known as Deep Sight Harmonizer will be added to the game that will allow players to apply Deep Sight to a craftable weapon, which can then be extracted by the player for crafting progress. So for example, you could buy a craftable weapon from the gunsmith, put one of these currencies onto it, turn it into a red border, and then turn that red border into crafted progress. Now, this would be amazing and everything until you realize that this system isn't going to be fully implemented, and players will only be able to get a total of 6 of this currency from the Season of the Deep Season Pass. 3 if you're a free-to-play player, and 3 if you are paying. That means if you want to put all of your resources towards one weapon that has no progress, you will only be able to get that one weapon for the season, with 1 more currency going towards pattern progress on another. I'm sure the system will be fully expanded on later, and hopefully by Season 22, because I know there's a lot of people out there that have been prepping to get these crafted weapons. There's going to be a lot of disappointed people because of that. Number 17. Season of the Deep will be introducing a myriad of changes in regards to how the HUD's reticle displays information with certain weapons. Guns like fusion rifles, touch and malice, ace of spades, and many more will display crucial information right under or around the reticle, so you don't need to look elsewhere. This is a really good quality of life change, and I absolutely love when Bungie does stuff like this. Number 18. Sniper rifles will be receiving a 10% damage buff in PvE. Will this be enough to warrant their use more often? Maybe, but hey, any increase in damage is always welcome. Number 19. Remember that Arbalest ornament that the community voted on forever ago? Well, now it's finally arriving in Season of the Deep. I'm not sure if this would be a silver only purchase or not, but here's hoping that Bungie drops it for Bright Dust at some point in the future. Number 20. The Journey screen will be receiving an update that will display all new information. We'll now have the ability to see past information from previous seasons like our Guardian ranks, Commendation score, seasonal challenges, and seasonal triumph score. Number 21. Lots of exotic armors are being reworked going into next season, and if I spent time going over all of them, we would be here forever, so here are a few highlights. Oathkeepers will deal increased bow damage to combatants depending on how long you have the bow drawn. Do we know how much damage? No, but it seems pretty dope considering how strong a lot of the exotic bows are in PvE. Stompies will now basically be a useless exotic for as long as your class ability energy is depleted. This is a really stupid change in my opinion, but Bungie's argument is that controller players have a hard time targeting hunters, which is interesting, I guess. Anyways, Mask of Baccharis, Mantle of Battle Harmony, and Path of the Burning Steps were all changed to have a 4-tier non-stacking weapon damage bonus that goes up to 25% and doesn't stack with surge mods. No Backup Plans is getting a full rework that will give you Void Overshield and health regeneration when on a Void subclass and getting shotgun kills. While having an Overshield, shotguns deal additional damage, and this sounds absolutely phenomenal with the new Root of Nightmares exotic. Strongholds now give 50% damage reduction in PvE, and when you stop blocking, you gain 2 times restoration for based on how long you were being shot. Dune Marchers has had its chain lightning range reduced by 8 meters. Chromatic Fire now has an increased radius and damage of explosions from the headshot kills. The explosions as well will now apply status effects depending on the subclass you have equipped. And finally, Starfire Protocol is going to go from giving 20% grenade energy per tick to 2.5% grenade energy, and it will now give 20% grenade energy on kills, of course for as long as you're in an Empowering Rift or Well of Radiance. Number 22. Bungie is going to be buffing some light subclass fragments by increasing their fragment slots from 1 to 2. For the Hunter, these include the Trapper's Ambush and Gunpowder Gamble for Solar, as well as Shatter Dive for Stasis. For Titan, we have Bastion for Void and Juggernaut for Arc, and for Warlock, we have Chaos Accelerant for Arc as well. Number 23. On top of aspect buffs, we'll also be seeing a ton of buffs allocated to supers come next season, so here's a list of them. All PvE supers will be getting a 20% damage resistance while they are active, and keep in mind this is only going to apply for the casting animation for things like Well and Bubble, so they're not getting that much stronger. Golden Gun and Arc Staff will be receiving a 20% PvE damage buff. Spectral Blades will be receiving a 35% PvE damage buff. Also, the heavy attacks will now weaken enemies when hit. Fist of Havoc will now use less super energy per light and heavy attack, and heavy attacks can now blind and deal 33% more damage. Glacial Quake has 10% more movement speed during Shiver Strike Thrust, and the light attack will now increase its damage by 20%. The Sentinel Shield damage will go up by 20%. The Hammer of Saul damage will go up by 10%, Burning Maul damage will go up by 10%, and will now create sunspots with Soul Invictus on, and the heavy attack can now apply Scorch. Nova Warp will be getting a 15% damage buff, and a fully charged attack can now make enemies volatile. Nova Bomb will be receiving a 20% buff. Storm Trance will receive a 25% buff and also have its damage ramp faster, 3 seconds from 5, and Landfall Detonation and Seekers can now jolt enemies. Chaos Reach will be receiving a 25% damage buff, and sustained damage with the super can now create jolt, and you will also have a higher strafe speed while in the super itself. Finally, Winter's Wrath will be getting a 10% damage buff. Number 24. Jolt damage is getting reduced by 15%, and Bungie also reduced the additional damage scaler versus majors by 20%. So for any of you guys that are rocking Volt Shot or do a lot of jolting with your builds, pour one out because Jolt is kind of getting hit with the Nerf hammer. Number 25. Alright, let's talk PvP. If that's not your thing, as this is mostly a PvE channel, use the timestamps below and skip to the leaks portion of the video, or if you don't want to hear about leaks, then I will see you next time. Still here? Alright, let's go. The Meltdown Crucible map that got thrown into the DCV at the start of Beyond Light is making its return to D2. We're unsure if the map will be changed in any way, if at all, but I honestly enjoyed this one while it was around, and I'm glad it's back. Any kind of variety in PvP is always welcome. Number 26. With Season of the Deep, Bungie is introducing a new competitive playlist exclusive weapon, a sniper rifle. This is going to replace the Rose entirely, but Rose will eventually come back into the game to be obtainable. Number 27. A new competitive Season 21 emblem will be made for those that hit the Ascendant rank, and the old one will become unobtainable and never to be gotten again. Number 28. Lord Shaxx will now have transmat effects that you can equip that will correlate to what rank you are in the competitive playlist. Bungie is seemingly hitting PvP pretty hard with rewards this season, which is really nice. Number 29. Speaking of rewards, Trials of Osiris will now be receiving a new Ghost Shell as a random drop for match wins, a Flawless Ship in Sparrow, which will be RNG just like the rest, and a Flawless Shader that is going to be guaranteed upon going to the Lighthouse. You're also going to be able to obtain older Flawless Shaders, as they will be making their appearance in future seasons as ones that you can unlock and equip. Also, there is a Trials Art Glaive for the 4 people watching that care about a Trials Glaive. Number 30. There is going to be a brand new Flawless emblem that will be awarded to players who go flawless, all without ever trailing behind the enemy, meaning you must always be in the lead throughout every game, and this means that you can never lose round 1 of a game in your entire journey to the Lighthouse. Number 31. This is the portion of the video where we start talking about leaks, so if you don't want to hear any leaked information concerning next season, please click off the video now. I'll give you a little bit of time just in case. Still here? Cool. Subscribe to the channel since you love me so much, and let's begin. Firstly, with something that has been confirmed by Bungie, the new dungeon will be launching on May 26th, the first Friday of Season of the Deep. Number 32. While on the topic of the dungeon weapons in a developer-exclusive infographic were referred to as oceanic dive equipment. Also, I'm not going to be showing any of these images in this video because I don't want a potential lawsuit from Bungie, so apologize for the lack of visual aid. Anyways, these weapons will be a special stasis waveframe GL, a rapid fire solar glaive, a solar aggressive SMG, and a stasis aggressive rocket launcher. And given how things have gone in previous dungeons, we can probably expect 2 rehashed weapons, although that has yet to be confirmed, and we still don't know what they would be. Number 33. The origin trait for the Oceanic Dive weapon set is called Restoration Ritual, and it says that reviving allies or killing enemies with finishers reloads this weapon and readies an emergency reload for the next time the weapon runs out of ammo. Number 34. This leak could be for the season after Season 21 or for Season of the Deep itself. It wasn't 100% confirmed in the slide, but there will be, at some point, a seasonal weapon set that is a bunch of taken versions of Reckoning weapons. Think how the Whisper of the Worm looks and just apply that visual to a legendary seasonal weapon. These weapons include a Stasis Aggressive SMG, a Strand Rapid Fire Pulse, a Stasis Rapid Fire Sniper, a Strand Rapid Fire Shotgun, a Void Aggressive Hand Cannon, and a Strand Vortex Sword. And finally, number 35, the origin trait for these weapons is called Unsated Hunger, and it states that you get increased handling, reload, and stability when no abilities are fully charged. Swords will gain increased guard resistance and charge rate instead. And with that all said, ladies and gentlemen, those are your 35 plus major changes coming to Destiny 2 Season of the Deep. Thank you all so much for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed, and shout out to my Patreon and YouTube supporters for helping keep the channel up and going. In Tier 2 and up for Patreon, we have Admist, BoomerNoob, Serenity, Austin, Cinco, and Galumia, and for my Tier 2 YouTube members, we have BWC, Hank the Tank, Bluesman, Aldo Martin, Kira Gira, Imposter, Repulsive Potato, Brandon Fisher, Ram, Irvin Hornby, Mad Ghost, Salty, Nimble Fox, Mamimi, Clear, Angel, Ben McClellan, Mayhem Gaming, Alex, and Serenity once more. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.